What's up, everybody? This is your boy Jesse Williams, aka J Will, from the Dads in Time Out podcast. It has been a minute since I have shot a podcast. There's trucks in the background rolling around. We're at work, so I'm back. So the last podcast I did for you guys was about Oklahoma and Texas, and just so you know, I found out later that day that I actually had COVID. If you see any notifications popping up on my camera, I don't know if it'll pick that up, but it's because I'm in the middle of a fantasy football draft. But they're gonna have to wait for me to pick. We got 8 hours per pick, but I don't know how long this pod will go. I'm on my lunch break. And so got a lot of responses, a lot of views. We're up to almost 400 views on YouTube, which I know doesn't sound like a whole lot, but every single view is appreciated. I've been putting stuff on the Spotify page, which is also on Apple and Google, which I do through Anchor. Shout out to Anchor. Anchor is such an awesome app. If you do podcasts, look into Anchor. It's totally free, and they will spread your stuff out, and it gets you notoriety. Shout out to the 330 Sports guys. They shouted me out on their show. Man, that's so much love. That's awesome. Shout out to Jack Vita. Shout out to everybody. It's my turn to pick in the draft, but they're going to have to wait because we're doing this podcast. And so I wanted to talk about NBA free agency, but before that, congratulations to the men's team for winning the gold medal. They almost gave that game away at the end, but France is a very tough team. Rudy Gobert balled out in international play. They have another guard whose name I can't remember, DeSoto or something like that, or DeSolo. I don't remember his name, but he balled out. Evan Fournier played his butt off. But shout out to Kevin Durant, bro. Like, Kevin Durant might be the best player in the NBA. It's between him and Giannis. I think LeBron is no longer the number one. I think LeBron's still one of the most important players in the league, and I'm a LeBron guy. But I think that's okay. Going into year 19, if he's not the number one player in the league, I mean, he's held that throne later in his career than anybody else. So shout out to the team. I think when I get to Dame Lillard, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the Olympics and how I felt like he performed. But the USA played great team defense. They got their hands on a lot of balls. Drew Holiday was so important to this team. I think Jason Tatum hit a lot of timely shots. So did Devin Booker. Bam Adebayo played one of his better games in the tournament in the gold medal game, and they kept saying that's a man's rebound he got. And I do think that Bam Adebayo has things to work on with his game, but that mid-range jumper was like the 15-footer. He was hitting that when the U.S. needed it. But once again, it's all about Kevin Durant. Without Kevin Durant, I don't even think they medal. They may not even qualify just because the one thing that was a question about Kevin Durant was, can he be leader guy? Can he be the best player? And yes, I know that the U.S. Olympic team has way more talent, but we didn't send our best guys, and Kevin Durant carried that team. And so, and I've never been anti-Kevin Durant. I've been anti-Kevin Durant's attitude toward the media. I don't get it. I just think that sometimes it's unwarranted, some of the stuff that he does in the media. But I mean, hey, KD's a grown man. He can do what he wants. And so I just think that the USA, because Greg Popovich was getting a lot of criticism, and the only thing I would have liked to see on Team USA is, and I tweeted this out, is I wish we would have seen more KD, Booker, Tatum lineups. And especially like against Australia, when you didn't really need a whole lot of size, I think they could have gone KD, Booker, Drew Holiday, Jason Tatum, and then Bam at the 5. And I think they could have sufficed. Draymond Green was very important for that team. So congratulations to the U.S. Slovenia did not medal. Everyone was talking about how Luka was going to carry them to the gold medal, but I still think Slovenia, I mean, for them to be in their first Olympics, I'm pretty sure, to get to the semifinals, which he only had to win one game to get to the semifinals, but Luka played his butt off. He just got an extension today. So let's get into free agency. So let's just get the Lakers thing out of the way. And I want to vent about the Lakers. And it's not really about the Lakers. It's about how inconsistent people are when it comes to covering the Lakers, right? So they keep saying this is like, I hear one of two things with this roster. They're too old, they're geriatric, they're a nursing home. But then they keep saying it's a superstar team, right? They're like, they have 6 Hall of Famers. And they act like they have 6 Hall of Famers all in their prime. LeBron's in year 19. Carmelo's in year 19. Russ is 32. Anthony Davis is still 28. And then they have Marc Gasol, who would think is a borderline Hall of Famer, but he's washed as an NBA player. I mean, he couldn't even score a point against the U.S. in the Olympics. Marc Gasol's had a great career, but is he just a roster spot? Because, I mean, he's not anywhere near the player he was in Memphis. And so the Lakers made a bevy of moves. They only had like 4 players on their roster. So they traded for Russell Westbrook, which I still think is a weird fit next to LeBron, but like a lot of other important NBA people have saying, if LeBron and AD or LeBron and AD, like one or the other needs to take a game off, Russ is going to go hard all 82, and then you just kind of limit his ball touching in the playoffs to where like you don't let him shoot you out of games. And I think the fact that he and LeBron met with AD and discussed what they can do for this team, I think the Lakers are the clear favorite in the West, barring injury. Of course, that's every team. I think Malik Monk has been getting better the last couple years, and he really played well in Charlotte. I almost said Sacramento, but he was in Charlotte, and they got him for a steal. I like the Kendrick Nunn pickup and the Wayne Ellington pickup. Bazemore is going to play hard and play defense, so that'll get him some minutes. Talen Horton-Tucker, I think we don't really know what he is, but he's young and he's energetic. So it's a roster with, it's top-heavy old, but Carmelo shot 40% from 3. Malik Monk shot 40% from 3. Wayne Ellington shot 38 or 40% from 3. They have guys that can stretch the floor. Defense is going to be a little bit of an issue, but I don't think they need to have a top-ranked defense because Milwaukee didn't to win the title. And so I just think it's interesting where everyone's already built in the excuse either way. If they lose, they're going to be like, oh, well, LeBron couldn't get it done. And if they win, they're going to be like, well, he super stacked the team. So in this day and age, like, if I go to the park and I play pickup, I'm going to pick the best people possible. Like, if we're picking players, right? I want the best people possible on my team. Yeah, Jimmy Butler once in practice took the third-string guys whoop-de-woo. But Jimmy Butler's never won a championship that way. And stop with this, Giannis did it the right way. Yes, he did. But come on, man. I'm not a Nets fan. I couldn't stand the Nets. They're talented. But James Harden was on one leg. He was a 0 on offense, basically. Kyrie Irving was out for half that series. And if Kevin Durant wears a smaller shoe, Brooklyn moves on, and we're having a totally different discussion about the Bucks and Giannis and all this. Now, Giannis did what he needed to do, and he should be commended. He bullied the Suns, which I was calling for him to do, if you remember back to some of my other podcasts. This is not against Giannis. I mean, he played who was in front of him, and they won the championship. Congratulations to Giannis. But now he's the best player in the league. No, I think the best player in the league is Kevin Durant. Now, Giannis is up there. He's a 2-time MVP. And he's a walking 30 and 15. 30 and 13 at the least. He's going to get that every single night. He's a great guy. He plays his arse off, as Colin Cowherd would say. He gives you max effort, and he's not scared. Yeah, he did it the right way. There is no right way. You win championships. It's all about legacy, because someone made a good point. What did they want LeBron to do in 2010? Stay in Cleveland and never get any help? He should do it by himself like Michael Jordan. He had Scottie Pippen, the best defender in the league. They had him, the best scorer ever probably. And then they had Dennis Rodman, the best rebounder of all time. Yeah, they were all falling apart in 98, and Jordan should be commended for carrying that team. But let's not act like Jordan was winning with scrubs. In that context in the NBA, they surrounded Jordan with what he needed. Steve Kerr, Tony Kukoc, a European phenom. They had players, Ron Harper. They didn't have a bunch of trash. Now the NBA has way more talent than it's ever had. And what were the Lakers supposed to do? Get bad players? Like, And I love Charles Barkley, but Nick Wright is right on this one. Charles Barkley forced his way out of Philadelphia, Phoenix, and then went to Houston, and it didn't work out. I love Charles Barkley. I love him. But Charles is not the guy to talk to us about joining super teams. It was a different league. Players didn't have the power. I guarantee you if they had the power, they would have used it. So the Lakers were interesting. Who else did the Lakers get? They got rid of Kuzma, which I think is great because you really don't know what... Kuzma had opportunities last year. Kuzma had opportunities when Anthony Davis was hurt to step up and be the second best player on the team. Instead, it was Dennis Schroeder for the most part, who, by the way, I'm not ever going to criticize a guy for betting on himself, but he still doesn't have a team. He turned down that 4 years, $80 million from the Lakers, or $88 million, something around there, and now he's without a team. And Schroeder was the guy that was like, I'm the starting point guard. It's like, bro, like, leave that up to the team. I know you want to start. He should have said, hey, I think I should start, but I'll play whatever role. No, I came here to be the starter. Like, when has Dennis Schroeder ever been a great starting point guard in this league? He's been a great six-man. He was like second or third in the six-man voting 2 years ago. And he was good with the Lakers, but he was a no-show in the playoffs. Blame it on COVID. Okay, cool. I've had COVID, but I'm not in the NBA. But part of that is he just didn't shoot the ball well. And he's an undersized guard. So, and I'm not like haha, like a Dennis Schroeder, he didn't get signed. But I just think my big thing about this podcast is I always talk about let's put things in their proper context. So I think the Lakers did very well. Let's go to the Chicago Bulls. They got DeMar DeRozan in free agency with a sign and trade. I think it was a sign and trade. Yeah, they had to give some guys to the Spurs. And then they signed Lonzo Ball in a sign and trade, which the sign and trade thing's always so weird because it's like I know you're helping the other team for losing a guy, but then it's not really free agency because you're giving something up for it. So it's like a free agency, I thought you should just get the guy for free, right? But like, oh no, we feel bad, let's send you some stuff, whatever. The NBA has a parity issue, obviously, even though in the last 4 years and 4 of the last 6, we've had a different champion. We had the Cavs in 2016, the Warriors in 17 and 18, Toronto in 2019, the Lakers in 2020, and the Bucks in 2021. Oh, and by the way, so that's 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. The East is so bad that they've won 3 of the last 6 titles with 3 different teams. Now, and only one of those had LeBron, and then LeBron won one of the Western Conference titles. Kawhi Leonard won with the Raptors, and then Giannis with the Bucks. And so, so the Bulls now have a lineup that's going to be LaVine, DeRozan, Patrick Williams, Lonzo Ball, and Vucevic. Now, they gave up a lot off their bench in these sign-and trades. So, the Bulls could be anywhere from the play-in. I don't think they're going to be bad enough to be 11th. Or they could be like 5th or 6th. It just depends on how the season shakes out. What do you think about Indiana with Carlisle? They're bringing everybody back off injury. What do you think about the Sixers and what they're going to do with Ben Simmons? They got Andre Drummond, which is a weird thing. Like I guess they needed a backup center since their Dwight wasn't coming back. And then you got the Miami Heat, who got Lowry, but they lost Iguodala and Ariza, which I think is not bad for them. And then they got P.J. Tucker, so they just got rid of 2 old guys, got another old guy. They re-signed Jimmy Butler and Duncan Robinson. They still have a Tyler Hero problem. And they got rid of the Achiuwa guy. So Miami will be tough and interesting. Atlanta re-signed John Collins. They lost that backup center whose name I can't pronounce. Starts with an O. You know who I'm talking about if you follow the NBA. The Knicks are waiting for a superstar. So they're building up assets. So they got Kemba Walker on a super good deal. They got I can't remember who all they got, bro. I know they re-signed Derrick Rose. They re-signed Julius Randle. They got... I'm missing somebody. They picked... Evan Fournier. They picked up Evan Fournier, which I think is a good pickup for them. So they'll be a tough-minded, highly competitive, probably 4th or 5th seed again. Because Oh, and then Patty Mills went to the Nets, which is phenomenal that they were able to do that, because now they have a really complete bench. And I think the Nets are going to be the number one team in the East with the Bucks. And then the Sixers, and see, everyone's putting the Sixers third, but like, it all depends on what they do with Dame. I don't think, I would put Miami above Philadelphia. And then it's a mix of Atlanta and all the Atlanta folks. They're going to put us higher. It's like, what did y'all do to really get better? Now I have to look at the moves. Steph Curry got re-signed. Kelly Oubre went to the Hornets. I think the Hornets are going to be a super interesting team in the East. With LaMelo and Rozier, they got rid of Devontae Graham, who everyone's like, he's a good shooter. It's like, no. He shoots threes good. He doesn't shoot anything else well. He's never shot over 38% from the field. Dame Lillard still hasn't officially requested a trade. Washington's going to be interesting because they got the Lakers pieces in Montrezl Harrell and Kuzma and KCP, and I think the Lakers are going to miss KCP and Caruso. Yeah, Caruso went to the Bulls. So the Bulls are going to be a tough team. Caruso's going to have to play a lot of defense off the bench. So NBA, Kawhi and Reggie Jackson both went back to the Clippers. Now Kawhi's going to miss most of the year. JaVale McGee went to the Suns, which they really could have used him to basically collect fouls while Ayton sat on the bench to keep him out of foul trouble. Because remember, that's what I said. How did they not have a backup center and they still made the finals? They re-signed Chris Paul for 4 years. It's a bad deal, but there's no guaranteed money in the 4th year. And it's a bad deal because Chris Paul's going to be old. And so giving a 4-year contract to a guy's age is always a bad idea. But it's a deal that they had to make for culture, leadership, and a true point guard. So it's a good bad deal, if that makes sense, right? And so I think the NBA free agency was cool. I really thought that the team I'm really disappointed in is the Dallas Mavericks. They re-signed Hardaway Jr. They got Reggie Bullock. But I don't know what they're really doing. Like, they're running this thing back with Jason Kidd as their coach instead of Carlisle. And so they didn't really move the needle. They're still stuck in the middle of the West. The Nuggets are going to be without Jamal Murray. We'll see if Michael Porter Jr. takes another step. The Jazz got Rudy Gay, which I thought was great because that's just another ISO guy off the bench. So now you can run a lineup with Rudy Gay, Clarkson, and Donovan Mitchell. So it's just another scorer for Utah that is not just a three-point shooter. And they still have Joe Ingles. So I think Utah should be very interesting. I feel like I'm missing somebody in this free agent class. So let's go through the teams. Like Brooklyn, we talked about them. We talked about Milwaukee. Oh, Milwaukee got Sterling Brown. No, Sterling Brown went to the Mavericks. Grayson Allen went to the Bucks. And I think that's really good because Grayson Allen can hit threes. He played very well for Memphis. I didn't know what kind of NBA player he was going to be, but he really fit the mold of that knit and grit in Memphis, and I think that's going to pay dividends in Milwaukee. I think Grayson Allen's a great pickup for them. They re-signed Bobby Portis out of Arkansas. He's an important piece for them. I thought he should have got more money, but he did it, which is fine. They lost P.J. Tucker. You can replace P.J. Tucker. Like, he was important to them last year, but you didn't have to keep him. We talked about Miami. We talked about Chicago. We talked about Atlanta and New York. The Cavaliers gave Jarrett Allen $100 million. I guess he's worth it. He plays really, really hard. He's a great rim protector. He dunks a lot. If he can develop a mid-range game to go along with Evan Mobley, they're an interesting, number 13, 12 team in the East. The East got a lot better. We talked about the Suns. They got somebody else that I don't remember who it was, but they re-signed Campaign. They're basically running their team back, got JaVale McGee, and they got one other guy. I don't remember who it was. We talked about the Jazz and the Grizzlies, the Pelicans. Like, y'all can... Dude, I don't know what they're doing. Like, I have no idea. And I did not like the Steven Adams and Eric Bledsoe trade for Memphis. I did not like that trade at all. I liked Memphis' team as it was constructed. I thought they could maybe add a piece or here, but I didn't like it. I didn't like them losing Grayson Allen. I'm out on Eric Bledsoe. Steven Adams is a center built for a different era, and I like Steven Adams a lot. I think he's another one of those. I play really hard. I hustle on every play. Zion's going to leave, and that franchise is going to move. I'm just calling it right now. If you're a New Orleans Pelicans fan, you can hate me. I don't see how they're doing nothing to keep Zion. David Griffin, maybe, you know what? Maybe LeBron was the GM after all. Maybe he was, because David Griffin has done nothing since he left Cleveland to be like, oh, it was miserable. I had to just do everything LeBron wanted. You went to 4 finals in a row and won a championship. Like, yeah, you had to maybe not build a team the way you wanted to, but you were in the finals every year. What are you doing in New Orleans? You've been in three coaches now. But like people have said, Griffin's protected in the media. And I'm glad he survived cancer, but how long does that get you? And maybe New Orleans, because think about it. Everyone's like, oh, they fleeced the Lakers. The Lakers gave up too much. The Lakers won a title. The Pelicans haven't made the playoffs. Lonzo Ball's gone. I don't know if Josh Hart is there anymore. Brandon Ingram is an all-star. So that's the one good piece they got. They got Julius Randle in the deal, I think. And then Randle went to the Knicks. I think that's how that played out. So now they don't have Julius Randle. They don't have Lonzo Ball, which I think were the 2 most important pieces with Ingram. Like, I have no idea what the Pelicans are doing. Like, as I was trying to fill out my spots for, like, next year's standings, like, maybe they're better than the Spurs. It's them and the Kings. Like, the Kings stayed pat and drafted another point guard. So it's like these franchises, like, I'm more excited about Minnesota in the West than I am about the Pelicans. And the NBA needs Zion in the playoffs. They need him in the playoffs because he's box office. He's great. He's a superstar player in the making. He had a Shaq-like season last year, and he's wilting away, but no one turns down that first rookie deal. JJ Redick is a domino I'm waiting to fall, and I guarantee you he's going to Brooklyn or the Knicks because he wants to be in New York because of his son, which, hey, I'm a father. I get it. Dad's in Timeout's the name of the podcast. I love JJ Redick's podcast. But if he was like, hey, what if he goes to Philly? It's like, there's a reason all them dudes left Philly. Now, maybe with Doc there and they get rid of Simmons, just the whole process is, I don't know. Like, that's an interesting one right there. The Orlando Magic, they drafted Jalen Suggs, who I really wanted on the Cavs. Just go look at their roster. It's really weird. And then I think they drafted the Wagner dude that wasn't already in the NBA from Michigan. Or Wagner. I'm sorry, Wagner. My bad, Wagner. They pronounce it different. So now they have the Wagner brothers. And so Orlando's a mess. But, I mean, NBA free agency was everything I thought it would be. I did not expect these moves from the Lakers. Because at first when they were doing it, I'm like, yeah, they're getting a bunch of old dudes. Like, what is this? And then they got a couple of steals. And it's all about how this team fits and if guys can hit threes while they play with LeBron. Because that's been the biggest thing. You have guys that can hit threes, and then they play with LeBron, and he gets them wide open, and they just miss them when they're open. Like they're not used to being open. And then somehow it's like, oh, LeBron just creates too much pressure. And it's like, shut up. Y'all were congratulating MJ for punching people in the face and Kobe for saying, why would I pass the ball to Smush Parker? But LeBron's puts too much pressure on these guys. Just be consistent is all I ask. I don't know who's going to win the title. If the Nets are healthy, they should win it. But we need an LA-Brooklyn Finals. Why? Because it has hip-hop history to it. It has LeBron versus Kyrie, Russ versus KD. You have Russ versus Harden. Just so many storylines. LeBron versus KD again in the finals. It would be great. But as we saw, very entertaining finals this year, and it was Atlanta and Phoenix. Or I'm sorry, it was Milwaukee and Phoenix. Ended up being a 6-game series. But there was drama to the series. Like, it was like a really, really good playoff series. So, anyways, I've been rambling for a little bit. More football is coming because now free agency's over and I have nothing basketball-wise to talk about. So from here on out, it will be football, mostly NFL, until we get to the college football season because I don't know who half these dudes in college football are because we just had a draft and I don't get paid to study all this, so I haven't studied all 100 and something teams in the FBS. So as the season goes along, we'll cover the games, and as I watch them, I'll get to know the players, and we'll talk about college football. We'll talk about the NFL coming up. I'll make predictions. I'm in 3 fantasy leagues. I got to go and draft. You guys have been awesome. Once again, check me out at JWillSportsGuy on Twitter. Check me out on my Spotify page, Dads in Timeout, and on Apple. I guess it's on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, CastBox, Overcast, wherever you get your podcasts. Check out my link tree in my bio on Twitter. And until next time, this has been the Dads in Timeout Sports Show. I'm your host, Jesse Williams. And until next time, God bless and peace.